I think being your own boss is amazing, but you can have a steady paycheck and be your own boss and make decisions for yourself while building a side hustle.
You're listening to Side Hustle Pro, the podcast that teaches you to build and grow your side hustle from passion project to profitable business. And I'm your host, Nicaila Matthews-Okome. So let's get started. Today's episode is brought to you by Gusto. So when you work for someone else, you really look forward to payday. But when you become a business owner, you really look forward to finding that great payroll provider. And that's where Gusto comes in. Small businesses across the country love running payroll using Gusto. Gusto automatically files and pays your taxes. It's super easy to use, and you can add benefits and HR support to help take care of your team and keep your business safe. It's loyal, it's modern, you might even fall in love with it yourself. Side Hustle Pro listeners get 3 months free when they run their first payroll. So try a demo and test it out yourself at gusto.com/SHP. That's gusto.com/SHP. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today in the guest chair, we have Yelitsa Jean Charles, the founder of Healthy Roots. Yelitsa never had a doll that looked like her growing up. And when she finally did get one, let's just say she was none too pleased. We'll get into that in the episode. Ever since that experience, Yelitsa has made it her goal to make sure that no other children feel the way she did about her own appearance growing up. While in her junior year studying illustration at the Rhode Island School of Design, Yelitsa redesigned the fairy tale character Rapunzel as a brown girl with beautiful, kinky hair. What started as a class project grew into Yelitsa attending an accelerator program and starting a Kickstarter with 674 dedicated backers, and Healthy Roots was born. Yelitsa has gone from not knowing how to do her own hair at the age of 21 to teaching young girls all about their own. Since starting Healthy Roots in 2015, Yelitsa has gone on to be recognized on Essence's 2017 50 Founders to Watch list. She's won the Startup Stampede and most recently won the New Voices Fund pitch competition during Essence Festival. Let's get right into it. So welcome to the guest chair, Yelitsa.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I am very excited to have you. You are the first doll maker that I've had on the show. But you know what? I just read your bio before I even get into questions. Give us a peek into your life. Who are you and what are you up to?
Where do I even begin? So my name is Yelitsa Jean Charles. I am a young Black girl just trying to make things happen. It's been pretty crazy this last couple of months because I felt like so much has happened at once. Because where I was in 2017 and 2016 with Healthy Roots is so different from where I am today. Getting our first investor, winning multiple pitch competitions, finally having my Haitian parents understand what it is that I'm doing, kind of. So I went to art school where I studied illustration at the Rhode Island School of Design, got involved in social activism there with Black Lives Matter, and wanting to bring that type of activism back into my work and thinking about the impact that artists and designers can have. And that ultimately turned into Healthy Roots because I wanted to do something that talked about my identity and my experience as a woman of color and could have an impact on the children that come after me. And I've been doing that for the past 3 years.
Wow. So when do you think you were kind of bitten by this entrepreneurship bug where you knew you wanted to do this, not just as a hobby or, setting up an Etsy shop, no shade to Etsy, but you approached this in a full-time business way. Talk about that.
People ask me this and I'm like, I didn't really get bit by a bug. I got pushed off a cliff. Ooh. And I had to pull the parachute. I stumbled into it. Like I said, I went to art school. I was supposed to be like a fine artist, like some Kara Walker type of stuff. And as I, continued studying, I realized I wanted to be in children's media and I wanted to focus on, my goal was to go to Scholastics or Penguin, so children's publishing. And I was really fueled by this. I've always believed in the power that individuals have and the fact that we should be always working towards impact. Even in like college, even before college, I would write in all my college essays about the power that artists have, creatives have, and the fact that we're able to inform society and educate people through our work and through the representation and opportunities that we have to represent all different aspects of life. And so entrepreneurship just became a tool for me to do that, a tool for me to continue educating people and creating the change that I wanted to see. Because Healthy Roots for me is not just a physical product. It's about the impact that we have on children through creating a diverse representation of themselves.
Now, I love that you say that because recently I was at a conference and I heard a quote. I wish I knew it verbatim, but essentially it talks about when you don't see your story represented, then it's almost as if you don't exist. And that resonated so much with me as someone who's creating this podcast to share our stories, because it's so true. You don't feel as if you exist. And you talk about having that experience of never seeing a doll that looked like you when you were growing up.
Yeah, actually, when my parents tried to give me a black doll for like Christmas when I was little, I like unwrapped it and I instantly started crying. And like you'll ask my mom, I'm like, yeah, she did. She did. Yep. It was pretty bad. And it just goes to show how much of an impact that kind of stuff has on kids. And so I use entrepreneurship more as a tool. It wasn't that like I was bitten by, like, oh, I started selling and I saw an opportunity. Like, no, like I wanted to create a difference, and entrepreneurship is my way of doing that by like getting into this system and using it to help make this change.
So what were some of your first steps? Now, in your bio, we heard a little bit about that grant that you received and how you started exploring a bit there. But can you break down what was that process really like?
I think that the school that I went to in particular was able to plant the seeds to help and give me the tools to pursue entrepreneurship without realizing it. So going to an art and design school, they're constantly making you think and learning how to problem solve creatively. And so all of our assignments were like, you're given these and these tools, you have to execute on such and such task, make it work. And just from my own background as a child, like coming from a low income family, like always having to like figure things out on my own. And so my journey, was like learning how to ask the right questions and seek the information that I needed in order to continue going. So I was doing a lot of research. Google is your best friend. I always tell people like Google things, like that everything is on Google, and like being open to acknowledging what you do and don't know. And that's another thing that I really credit my school for helping me realize and like own is like, it's okay not to know things so long as you're trying to learn.
And did you ever consider another outlet, another way to accomplish this same impactful mission that you were on, other than dolls?
I don't know. I could see myself working at different organizations and helping there, but they have to value your voice. And I don't think that we're in a position in our society where people are necessarily valued fully in in every space that they go and work in. So it'd have to be like a really good fit for me, because I was able to create change on my campus through student leadership. And I still have impact there today through the people that I taught that I left there. So that's the only other capacity that I could see myself making change.
Okay. So you are in this supportive program at Brown University and you get into another accelerator program. When did you start the Kickstarter? And at that point, did you just have a design of your doll, or were you actually starting to physically make it?
So I started the Kickstarter in my head, like when I started Healthy Roots, when I like applied for that initial program at Brown University in the fall, in the winter of 2014. That's when I was like, I'm going to do a Kickstarter. And everyone was like, no, you're not. And I was like, yes, I am. Like, do not tell me what I can and cannot do. So that's when I started the Kickstarter, because it just is inherent to me that like, you don't just create a Kickstarter and expect it to get funded. You have to do all the due diligence behind the scenes and like know where your money is coming from beforehand and build up an audience. So from then on, I was building my audience through my social media platforms. I was having conversations about race and gender and about toys and representation through my Facebook, through my Tumblr, which I like was able to build up a lot of followers and like have my friends who had really large art followings reblog and reshare my things. So that's what I was doing through my program at Brown, through the accelerator at Masschallenge, finding my core audience. Because I think one thing that a lot of people do is they expect their friends and family to be their consumers, and they're not. You have to go find the people who are actually looking for your product, and they will support you.
And who were those people? Were there particular mom groups that you honed in on?
So we looked at natural hair groups, and there was an overlap with like mommy bloggers as well. And we found that the consumers that purchased our product the most were white mothers with biracial or transracial adopted children.
Interesting. So, okay, Yelitsa, so I want to take it back a little bit, because although I kind of understand your journey and where you're going, I still don't have a sense of how this came to be, as far as how you physically made your first doll. Did you sell it on a website? Was there a team involved, or were you in your basement making dolls yourself?
Okay. No. That's the funny thing is, like, people to this day, when I like carry the doll around, be like, did you make this by hand? And I was like, no, I did not. You really think I'm just making plastic dolls out of my basement? Like,
I don't know. I really don't know.
So the first doll that's where Healthy Roots started, was in a class, and it was called 3D illustration. And I was tasked with the assignment of redesigning a fairy tale character. And so I chose to recreate Rapunzel. And I turned her into a little brown girl with kinky curly hair. So like I sculpted it out of clay. It was like aluminum base and Sculpey clay. And then I made a wig, and I painted it, and I like created her clothing, and I presented her to the class, and everyone was like, this looks like a doll. And I was like, it does look like a doll. That's interesting. And that's where it started.
Wow. And then did you start duplicating those, or was it just like, okay, let me first get money before I can start making these at scale?
So from there, I did the research for the fellowship at Brown University. So I did research behind like solving the problem. It wasn't even about the product yet, but it was about the idea of the product that I wanted to create, which was diverse dolls with different skin tones, facial features, and hair textures that are not only just brown, but are educational, like create the opportunity to teach you how to do your hair. And then from there, that's when we got into like building out the brand and the product. So finding a 3D modeler to take my sculpts, like we scanned them, and like editing them in Rhino or CAD to like, make a finished product. No, I think it was ZBrush to like make the finished product, which is funny because I took one of those classes and I immediately dropped it. It was really hard. I'm not a 3D modeling person on a computer. By hand, I can sculpt. So I was creating these things by hand and like doing the illustrations and designing the characters myself, making the logo. I used my curriculum in school to like build my company. So I would look at the courses available, and I'd be like, what do I need for my company, and what do I need to add to my skill set as a designer? And I'd be like, okay, cool. There's a branding and marketing class. I'm going to take that class, and I'm going to ask the professor if I can just work on Healthy Roots, and they would say yes. So I always tell people, don't say no before you can say yes. Ask your professors, because they want you to grow and they want you to be passionate about any assignments that you're doing. And if it's an opportunity for you to work on your company, do it.
Yes. And I love the fact that you touch on this. One of the things my husband and I always lament is, man, we wish we were thinking like this in college, or even in business school. Like, we would have done things so much differently. It would have just been about our company and learning as much as possible about marketing and making our company the best thing ever. So I love that you started doing this in college.
Well, the funny thing about that is that college kids will come up to me and be like, I'm thinking about starting business. I'm like, no, do not do it in college.
Why is that?
Because while it was fun and I think it set me up on a really good path, I think it's so much more important to develop really strong roots in your focusing on your education. You go to school to learn, and like it was stressful for me because I did the Kickstarter in between my junior and senior year, and now I'm trying to focus on fulfillment in the middle of my senior year when I'm supposed to be looking for jobs. That's crazy. And I think it's really important to just build up your resume and your skills. Well, I come from a design background, so it's really important to build up your resume and your portfolio so that you can go into the workforce and get some experience out there, and pocket some money so that you can reinvest it into your company. So I think there's several paths you can take, and I wouldn't recommend mine unless you wanted to do it.
That is a good point as well. So, one of the things I find, and not to take this interview, of course, but I can't overstate the benefit of some working experience. Now, as much as, we go through trials and tribulations, especially as Black women in corporate America, there is something to having that experience of dealing with the politics, as crazy as it is, and just being refined. I find that in hiring people, there's a difference when someone's had some years in a corporate environment. So with any path, there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
Is that in some.
Yeah. And a lot of the people that will come up to me are also, people of color, some of them from low income backgrounds. And I'm like, listen.
we're going to talk about this. Let's talk about this.
Pay your bills. Pay your bills.
Paid the bills. How it's getting done. But before we do that, I also find it really interesting that in creating Healthy Roots, in taking time to do research, your focus was in not just creating a pretty doll, but an educational doll. Let's talk a little bit about that. There are other people now with this concept of creating dolls that reflect African-American little girls. But what is different about Healthy Roots?
So what's different about Healthy Roots is the value add that we create for parents and children. We're creating an experience. We're not a physical product company. We're an experience brand. And that's what a lot of toy companies are, is you're selling an experience for children by creating a product that is either, visually educational, focused on science, math. It's about what they're doing with that doll. What are they getting from it? And so for us, we always talk about how the problem is that people are just creating brown dolls as if it's enough to paint a doll brown and expect a child to see themselves in it. It's not. You have to do so much more than make a brown doll. And so what we're doing is we created a doll that has specific hair fibers that you can wash it. You can, put shampoo in it. You can braid it. And in addition to that, we have a book that's an illustrated guide called The Big Book of Hair that teaches natural hair care step by step. So it has the science in it. It talks about porosity. It talks about your hair texture. It talks about the products. It talks about protective styling. It shows you how to do the different braids, how to do the Havana twist, how to do all these different things that we didn't know how to do when we were growing up, because we want kids to have those tools so that they can love their hair.
Now, I love this, but that is so genius. You know why? With everything that's going on lately with Fortnite, now I haven't played this game, but I know about this game, right?
Yes.
It's an experience. It's not just like a game that people are buying just to have a game. It is taking over people's lives. And I like that your company, you're forward thinking. You're thinking beyond this physical product, but how can we make this a part of people's lives?
Yes.
Imagine if we had a doll growing up that taught us about, or that we could practice, protective styling, and our hair is part of our core and a part of our lives, and how we present ourselves in the world and how we're able to maneuver through situations. So imagine if we started that prep early on.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of the toy companies that have had incredible success and are still thriving today have done. My mentor, Maxine, she's the founder of Build-A-Bear. They have an incredible model where they've created an experience for you when you come to the store. You're selecting all the different ingredients for your bear. There's a little heart that you're making a wish on that you're putting inside the bear. Those are the things that create value that can that make consumers want to purchase your product.
Oh, yes. And, you slid that in there, but we're going to have to talk about this mentorship. So as hard as this path has been, I can't give you enough praise because you've been very smart about it. And where you are at your age is not something to take for granted. There are a lot of people.
I feel so old.
What are you, the girl?
Don't tell people how old I am.
I actually don't know. I just know you're younger than me. So to be here, to be working with these kind of mentors is incredible. So let's, take some time to talk about that journey. So when did you know and how did you go about finding that mentor, or knowing which pitch competitions you wanted to enter, or which incubators you wanted to apply for?
So at first, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just I need money and I need people to tell me things. Where can I go? And that's how I ended up at Masschallenge in Boston, which was actually really helpful. And any of the mentors that I've collected along the way have either been because of school, they were connected to me through school or mutual contacts, or they saw me pitch, or they read an email that I was featured in and they reached out to me, or I went to an industry event that I do research about events and spaces that are particularly relevant to me. So it's either, kids educational products, toy fairs, natural hair events, parent events, and I will connect with them there. And I look beforehand, who's going to be there, what companies are sponsoring, and doing my research to figure out okay, do I need to be there or not? And then collecting business cards. I went to Toy Fair my senior year, which was 2016, and I got the business card of Debbie Sterling from Goldie Blocks and just held on to it because I didn't have anything to ask her yet. I didn't have anything to contribute. And then just a couple months ago, I saw her featured on TV recently with another young girl who had a doll thing going on. And I looked for her business card, which I always keep, and I emailed her, and now she's also one of my mentors. So I just collect and I keep track. I don't have like a official CRM system, but my brain is that. Like I always know like people's industries, people's specific skill sets. I do the 5 degrees of separation. Like it's also like my Facebook is part of my network. It's like I know who's connected to who and who knows has access to such and such opportunities. And so it's like building your network is the most important thing I can advise people to do, and just like always being like honest about what you need and not being afraid to ask for help.
Right. I was just about to ask. So when you meet someone and you don't follow up right away and then you pitch them, that takes some finesse, right? Because some people don't want to feel like, oh, what does this person want? So clearly you have that finesse. So I need you to share those tips.
I don't have finesse. I just know when to bother people and when not to. Because it's like, just because you get someone's business card doesn't mean that that's the right time to have that conversation with them. What traction have you had? Do you have anything that they can help you with at all? Because it's like, you can't ask them to help you. You have to give them a call to action to help you.
Ooh.
And you have to have a relationship behind that as well.
What's an example of a call to action? Are you like, hey, I'm in this incubator. I've already done X, Y, Z. And now it would be awesome to hear your perspective having, created Build-A-Bear and made a purpose-driven company similar to what I'm building.
So Maxine actually reached out to me because of the Venture for America Fellowship. They put me in one of their newsletters, and she just wanted to help, with any needs that we might have. So my call to action to her is like me. So the thing about a call to action is like, you have to understand your needs. So you need to sit down and you need to write out, what am I working on? What are my deadlines? And what am I missing to meet such and such goals? And so when I go to like my mentors who have experience with manufacturing, I will talk to them like, hey, I'm going to China in 2 weeks. I wanted to understand more about establishing a contract with a manufacturer. Can we hop on the phone for 15 minutes?
Love it. Very specific. Very helpful.
Because the more specific you are, the more they can help you. Yes. You need to know what you need to know from them.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There's nothing worse than getting I just want to run something by you. What?
No.
What do you want to run by me?
I only have so many hours in the day.
What do you want to talk about?
Like, I'll get those emails from people who are just like starting, and I'm like, I want to help you, but you're not making it easy for me to help you.
Get to the point, folks. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Nikayla here with a quick word from our sponsors. Hey side hustlers, if you have already started your business or are getting ready to, you probably know that small business owners, we wear a lot of hats. And some of those hats are totally fun, but if we're being honest, some of them, like filing taxes and running payroll, for example, they're not so great. That's where Gusto comes in. Gusto makes payroll, taxes, and HR actually easy for small businesses. Fast, simple payroll processing, benefits, and expert HR support all in one place. Gusto even automatically pays and files your federal, state, and local taxes so you don't have to worry about it. Plus, they make it easy to add on health benefits and even 401ks for your team. Those old school, clunky payroll providers just weren't built for the way we work as modern, small businesses. But Gusto is. So let them handle one of your many hats because you have better things to do. Side Hustle Pro listeners get 3 free months when they run their first payroll. So try a demo and see for yourself at gusto.com/SHP. That's gusto.com/SHP. Okay, I have a side hustle hack for all to hear, and it's called Skillshare. You want to know how I grow as a businesswoman? I keep learning. There's not a week that goes by that I'm not checking out a refresher class or a deep dive tutorial, and my go-to is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform with over 18,000 classes in business, marketing, entrepreneurship, you name it. So whether you're trying to start a side hustle or scale your business, Skillshare is there to keep you learning and thriving. In the last month alone, I've learned how to set up my email capture landing page on Squarespace and how to boost my email marketing using MailChimp, all through Skillshare. And now, Skillshare has a special offer just for my listeners. Get 2 months of Skillshare for just 99 cents. That's right, just 99 cents. To sign up, go to Skillshare.com/hustlepro. Again, go to Skillshare.com/hustlepro to start your 2 months now. Now, let's get into pitch competitions and incubators. You are currently in one.
Yes.
When do you know when to continue going through incubators and when to stop and just start, going hard on your company?
So I'm actually using this specific accelerator to go hard on my company, just in a different city. So I saw this. This is an accelerator through Venture for America. And the reason why I wanted to do it was because it would be it's during holiday season, and it would be in a different city that I haven't tapped my network in yet. So it's in Detroit, and I've never been to Detroit, but I know there's tons of people of color out here, and I know there's capital out here, and I know that I need to be working. So this gives me the opportunity to be in a co-working space in a different city where I can meet people and also get work done.
So are Healthy Ruth dolls available yet? Or is this what you mean by going hard? Like you are now focusing on the actual sales process and the availability? Yeah.
So we're actually sold out right now.
Okay.
I've been getting multiple emails from people, and I was like, where were you when they were here? Because I can't help you. So I'm working now on making sure production for the holiday season is running smoothly. I'm booking a flight to China right now to meet with manufacturers and review product and make sure everything is on the up and up. And so that's what I mean when I'm focusing on holiday season. Like I had to focus on my marketing for the holiday season, working with McKinney, because we won a pitch competition with them where they're providing us those services. And I'm focusing on my holiday season marketing and production.
Very smart, very smart. Now, booking this trip to China, I know you're not just going there blind, but when you're creating a new product that someone hasn't manufactured before.
Oh, girl.
Yes. How do you find the right manufacturer?
I literally just tweeted about this the other week when, because people saw me on the phone, and I have this bad habit of clapping my hands when I'm talking to somebody, because I was like, I told y'all the hair has to be like this. So hard. Because it's I sent you the sample. You send me back a sample that's nothing like what I sent you. And I'm wondering, do your eyes work? Did you run it underwater like I told you to? Are we speaking the same language? I know we don't really speak the same language, but I feel like I've done everything in my power to help you. So the first thing that I do is I look at my network, and I look at the toy people I have in my network who have already established their chain of production. And I ask them, hey, do you know of any factories that produce such and such type of quality dolls? I'm looking to connect with them while da-da-da-da-da. And they'll make introductions for me to either agents or people that they've worked with before. So you always want to go through verified folks. So these are companies and the reason why that's good is because if you come through them, the companies will be less likely to screw you over, because it's I will tell them that you delivered a poor product to me. Yeah, so that's how I do it.
Okay. And how are you surviving during all this? Now, we touched on this with your advice to current college students, paying your bills. Are you using pitch competitions and, funding yourself that way, both for the business and for living expenses?
Well, pitch competitions, and I work. I have a skill set and I need income. So I do graphic design work and contract illustration work.
All right. See, I didn't even know that. Now that's that hustling mentality. Okay. And you're balancing and juggling that with building out the business.
Yes. It's quite the balancing act.
I can imagine. Now, when you first started pitching, was this something that you leaned on your college and the resources there to start getting better? You were recently selected as, was it the New Voices Fund pitch competition winner? Fund. Yes. So how do you prepare for those kind of opportunities?
It's kind of hard. I don't want to be one of those people that's I don't even study anymore. No.
You can, but you've put in those hours though.
I guess it's my art teacher in high school would always talk about how the Beatles were masters of their crafts because they spent 10,000 hours, learning how to play the instruments and writing music. And it just gets to a point where with pitching, your company, your product, and your goals, and you also know your ask. So you can just curate your pitch and just switch words around. I have drafts of pitches that are targeted towards different audiences that I'll just like copy and paste stuff from to build a new pitch when I like have to do something. But like I already know the content, I'm just restructuring it or, updating my traction. And it's something that you develop over time. Like your first pitch is never going to be perfect, although mine was pretty good.
I love it. You need part of that confidence too, right?
Yeah, you have to have that. Don't be arrogant, but be confident. Because if you're arrogant, you're not going to be looking for ways to improve. So whenever I pitch, I'm also like asking people like, hey, like, what do you think I should have added? Or how would you change things? Pitch competitions are a great way to practice as well.
And when you listen to other companies that are pitching, are there anything that you just listen to it and you're like, you know what, like those are some like big no-nos that I wish I could just share with them before they had gotten on stage?
I hate when people ask questions.
What do you mean?
Who here in the audience has ever... Please raise your hand if you have ever... Listen, stop doing that. Stop. Because not only is it just not relatable, you're forcing people to engage in a way that they don't want to. You're wasting your own time by like waiting for responses and hands to go up. Right. You only have so many seconds.
I wish they wouldn't teach you that kind of stuff in public speaking classes, because it's a fine line, right? You want engagement, but we all have to get more creative about it and stop doing the,
If you want engagement, be charismatic, be entertaining. That's how you get engagement. I'm just saying.
Exactly. Alrighty. So now, what are some of the mental barriers that you have had to overcome in being an entrepreneur and in starting your business?
I actually had a conversation, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, about how people will sabotage themselves because they're afraid of success. And I've had my mentors tell me like, Yelitsa, I think you're sabotaging yourself because you don't want to be successful. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's a word.
But yeah, I've definitely, delayed applying to things because, because it's like the fear of rejection. You have to get over that fear of rejection. I've gotten to a place where like I've gotten better at it, but it's still challenging because to me, I associate rejection, like not getting into a certain program, with not being good enough. Because in my mind, I'm like, if I do X, Y, and Z, like you told me, and, I have such and such traction and my mentors are, stellar, there's no reason to not accept me. I did all the things that y'all told me in this world that you have to be in order to be successful. So why do I have to continue to fly? That's a whole nother conversation though.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But yeah, so I've gotten to a point where like I've had conversations with like VCs and people at certain programs where like they've been honest with me and they said, it's not you, but it's like the industry or like what people are looking for. Everything is subjective. And so that's one thing I had to realize is like it's a lot of stuff is subjective.
That is so, so true. I mean, especially people who are high achieving. You're so right. When you come across those closed doors and you're like, wait a second, doors continue to open for me. Why don't you want to open your door for me? And even though there's a door next to you that's open, you can't stop looking at that closed door. Like, why didn't you want me? And I think your mentors are right in that the industry is not ready for bets. The industry likes stuff that they can kind of predict will do well. And anything that's outside of that, especially with us at the face of it, it's more challenging. So what advice do you have so far in how you've been getting through it to understand that sometimes the answer doesn't make sense? It's a no, and there won't be a reason for the no. It's just a no.
Do you, boo? Just do you. You know what? Build your company, make your money, and then when they come back trying to write you a check, tell them you don't need them.
Exactly.
But I think I want to see more entrepreneurs of color doing that because I don't want to see, entrepreneurs of color chasing VC money or angel investor money to build these companies when there's an opportunity for them to build it on their own. I know and I'm not talking about people who actually need the capital, the working capital. I'm talking about the people like me who have a physical product company, can buckle down and just focus on building their sales strategy and build their company that way. Yes, it's slower, but as a prideful Haitian, it makes me feel so much better.
Oh, yes. And a prideful Jamaican, I feel the same way. Like, a lot of times I just want to tell people, well, why don't you just get some sales? Why are you going to that VC? So I agree with that. And yeah, they will come knocking when they see that success.
That's something that I've talked about recently is like not chasing things. Because, and that's any aspect of life. That's, work, that's personal life. It's like if somebody wants to support you, if somebody wants to write you a check, if somebody wants to text you back, if somebody wants to hang out, they'll let you know.
Mm-hmm.
You won't have to ask multiple times. You
Nope.
won't have to follow up multiple times. If it's not a yes, it's a no.
Oh, yes. Hell no at that. Now, a lot of people lose money in this first few years of business. You talked about you're still doing graphic design to fund the business. What has been your experience overall with cash flow, losing versus earning in these initial first years of business?
So I've never had a cash flow problem. I haven't lost any money, and I don't have any debt for Healthy Roots. Healthy Roots is a debt-free company. And it's really funny because I remember at one point, because there was a delay in production and shipping, some of the Kickstarter backers were like, oh, she just took the money, da 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 da. And I'm like looking at the two bank accounts side by side, and I'm like, I really wish that I could just transfer this over. But it's like, no, I always understand where my capital is going. And I think one problem that some physical product companies have is they don't set out their budget and they don't specifically allocate their funding, especially for cost of goods. I've had mentors be like, well, you have this much money. Why don't you just do this? And I was like, I have to purchase product. That money cannot be touched. So understanding the limitations of your capital and understanding your cash flow early is really, really important. Like even when I don't come from a financial background, but even I understood like this money is for this and this money is for this, and do not mess with it.
Now, I know you had 674 Kickstarter backers. How much did you raise overall?
It was $48,918.
Nice. Okay, so now you're in an accelerator in Detroit.
Yes.
What is next for Healthy Roots?
What's next for Healthy Roots is to sell out this holiday season. I'm not going to tell you all the things that we're working on, but we're working on things. If you want to get your doll, make sure you purchase early. And then building out our plans for the coming year in 2019. So once we do the holiday season, figuring out what our next moves are, because I want to expand and I want to create other products. And I want to create experiences for kids. So maybe a festival,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
we're figuring it out.
All right. Well, we'll be watching, supporting, and so excited. Now we're going to transition into the lightning round where you just answer the first thing that comes to mind. You ready?
Yes.
Alrighty. Number 1, what is a resource that has helped you in your business that you can share with the Side Hustle Pro audience?
Facebook, Facebook groups. I really like Build Brand Launch with Arsha Jones. I think that's one, because I will go into those groups and that's somewhere that I ask questions. I ask people for resources. I ask people for connections. Looking for targeted Facebook groups has been really helpful. Also, just my Facebook audience. Like when I tell y'all, I just be going on Facebook and be like, who's been to China and knows how to do a visa? I really need help. Like my Facebook friends expect questions from me and then they help.
Love it. And love Arsha's group. She's been on the show, so I will link to that. Number 2, what's been the best business book or podcast episode or event that you've consumed this year?
Event? Oh, I don't really go to business events. I went to Inc. And then I've been to Blavity events. I will say that my mentor's book about Build-A-Bear was really, really good. But podcast episode, I would have to recommend the Startup podcast featuring Backstage Capital.
Oh, yes. I love that.
That one was really good. Like, Arlen's my VC, and I didn't even know those things. I was texting her like, girl, what? That was really good.
I will link to that, you guys. That is a Side Hustle Pro supported podcast. Alrighty. Number 3, who is a Black woman entrepreneur that you would want to trade places with just for a day and why?
If I'm being unrealistic, I would say Beyonce or Rihanna, just like in a fantasy world, because I want to see how much of a role they play in their products and their brand and representation. But in a realistic world, I'd want to trade places with Morgan DeBon because I want to see the ins and outs of Blavity and like how that's been built.
Yes. All right. Number 4, what is a personal habit that has helped you significantly in your business?
Being unapologetically me. I'm not afraid to say exactly what it is. And that's something that I think would benefit a lot of people is like owning that. And like, because I feel like in the past I used to censor myself or, try to play the game. But then I realized either you're going to like me or you're not. And either you're going to help me or you aren't. So even if I do all those things, you could still not care. So I might as well just do me and be honest.
Yes. And finally, What is your parting advice for fellow women entrepreneurs who want to be their own boss, but are worried about losing a steady paycheck?
Don't let anybody rush your process. Don't let anybody rush you. And there's nothing wrong with having a steady paycheck. I feel like we're having conversations about that on social media, about the stigma of like entrepreneurship and people who have 9-to-5s. I think being your own boss is amazing, but you can have a steady paycheck and be your own boss and make decisions for yourself while building a side hustle.
Oh, yes.
So don't those two things do not negate each other.
Love it. Now, where can people connect with you after this episode?
Well, you can follow all of Healthy Roots at Healthy Roots Dolls on the social medias. And then I am the Yelitsa on Twitter. I tweet about Beyonce, feminism, Black womanhood, and hair.
Yes.
And then, my Tinder stories are really great. And then on Instagram at Black Girl versus the World.
All right. Well, Yelitsa, it has been a real treat having you in the guest chair.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And there you have it, guys. Hey guys, thanks for listening to Side Hustle Pro. If you want to hear more from me, head on over to sidehustlepro.co/Side Hustle Corner to get my weekly Side Hustle Diaries chronicles about my own journey from passion project to profitable business. And if you want to find me online, I'm at Side Hustle Pro on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Don't forget to join the Side Hustle Pro Facebook community. Go to sidehustlepro.co/mastermind. And as always, if you love the show, do me a favor and subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.